All right, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the Great Millstone, who rule and teach well, who taught us this truth. This is your brother Yashimai from the GMS Atlanta camp. Today's video is going to be going into the tribe of Ephraim, which are the so-called Puerto Ricans. All right, and I've got them pulled up on the map here. Now, one thing that I want to make a quick mention is that Puerto Rico, which is Ephraim, is to the right of Cuba, which, when you go into Genesis 48, when Ephraim and Manasseh got their blessing, that's exactly how they were standing. Manasseh was to the left, and Ephraim was to the right in the eyes of Jacob. All right. So first thing to get, I've got some articles, and of course we've got scriptures to get through. But first thing to get here is Numbers 1 in 31 through 32, the points at 32, it says, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Zebulun, were 57,400 of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Now, the reason that I bring this precept up is because as we go through the scriptures, we see here that when Joseph is mentioned, Joseph is mentioned in the context of the northern tribes, but also as we go through these scriptures, when Joseph is mentioned, it's going into the tribe of Ephraim, okay, because Ephraim is the head tribe of the northern kingdom. All right, I've got that in another translation here, and just to simplify it. Again, it's the same scriptures. Numbers 1 through and 32 says, the line of Joseph from son Ephraim, the men were counted off head by head, every male 20 years and older who was able to fight in the army, registered by clans and families. The tribe of Ephraim numbered 40,500. So Joseph is interchangeable with Ephraim according to context, right? Everything in context. This is what separates us as Hebrew Israelites from Christians, because Christians will just throw a Bible verse to you without having any context, and it doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead from here. We'll go into the name of Ephraim. All right. So we'll just get the name here, Ephraim, and in the Lashon Kadash is Ephraim. All right, which means he is fruitful. Okay, going into the name of Ephraim, that in itself is an omen nomen, which is basically a description of somebody's characteristics within the name. All right, because as we're going to get into, they are a very fruitful people. All right, so let's go ahead and get Genesis 49 verse 1. It's as we always get when it comes to the tribe. It says, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Now, this is a prophecy. Us going through, us putting out this video, us going through this, us getting the understanding that this is a prophecy, because this world, in general, they don't know who the tribes of Israel are, But this is a very important part in prophecy. I mean, Ezekiel 37, verse 16 says that Ephraim would no longer vex Judah. So that means that people have to know who they are for the tribes to come together in the end days, right? And so through the spirit of prophecy, starting with the elders and the apostles, we know who these tribes are. And that's another indicator that Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai is working with the Israelites, with the Hebrew Israelites, starting with the elders and the apostles, because the Christians aren't telling you this. All right. So this is a very important prophecy, man. So Salakia for being long-winded, but that point has to be made, man. So let's go and get straight into it. Genesis 49, verse 22. Joseph, which we already established, is going into Ephraim. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. Now, there's a couple points to get from this from this scripture. First and foremost, is the word bow means bond or son. So when it says, it says Joseph is a fruitful son, even a fruitful son by a well, whose branches run over the wall. And again, Ephraim, man, so-called Puerto Ricans, they are a very fruitful people. You can find them in damn near every state, man. And to think, let's go ahead and get that map again. To think that Ephraim went after they left the Assyrian captivity, went from Puerto Rico all the way. I mean, I've even met some in Washington State when I used to live up there, man. So they're a very fruitful people, man. So that's what that's going into, all right? And then furthermore, it says, even a fruitful bow by a well. Now, when it mentions that he's a fruitful bow by a well, it's a fruitful son by the, well goes into waters. And as you see, in the end of days, Ephraim is that fruitful son by waters. Puerto Rico is surrounded by water. So that's what that means, it's going into, in the end days, he would be surrounded by waters. Now, the last part of that scripture that I want to get, it says, whose branches run over the wall. I want to get an article here just to show you how fruitful Ephraim is, okay? Because, the next question should be, how did Ephraim get from Puerto Rico to the United States? Because we know that the majority of the elect is going to be in Babylon, right? And so this article is going to go into how fruitful they are. So in the 1940s and post-World War II era, a significant number of Puerto Ricans migrated to New York City, primarily by air, leading to a substantial increase in the city's Puerto Rican population. This period is often referred to as the Great Migration. Factors such as economic hardship in Puerto Rico, the available of affordable air travel, and recruitment efforts by U.S. employers fueled this migration. Now, remember this last part, okay? Factors such as economic hardship, the availability of affordable air travel, and recruitment efforts by who? By the United States. Never trust thine enemy. Remember this, because this is going to get brought up later. Okay, so now I wanted to show this. Okay, let me see here. Boom, economic growth of Puerto Rican. Check this out. It says right here. It says by the mid 1960s, the numbers of Puerto Ricans in New York City had grown to over 1 million. But this one shows you right here. It says boom, 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 boom. Puerto Rican. Okay, right here it says, here's the point. This goes into their fruitfulness, okay? It says between the 1940s and the mid-1960s, this influx grew the city's Puerto Rican population almost 13-fold, from 70,000 to 900,000. That's a 13x, man. So, imagine a 13x on your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, whatever it is, on your bank statement, man. Whatever you got. In 20 years, that's crazy, man. So, again, it just goes to show that they are a fruitful people. But the point here, when it says whose branches run over the wall, that's their seed coming into Babylon, all right, America. All right, so now let's get into verse 23. It says, the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Now, let's get the word archer here, okay? Because that word archer is by law, and that word archer, it goes into a ruler or a lord. Now, who are those archers? Well, those archers are Esau, Edom. All right, because that's exactly who the lords of this world are. Esau, Edom has shot their arrows and grieved him, right? As we are going to get into. And I want to get a quick precept to kind of build on that, because it says that the archers shot at him and sorely grieved him. Because what is an archer? An archer is a weapon. All right. Let's get Psalm 17 and 13. It says, arise, O Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Now, we know that Esau, Edom is thy sword, is his sword, right? And so just as his sword is Esau, Edom, which is his weapon, those archers mentioned in Genesis 49 are, again, the weapon, Esau, Edom. All right, so it says the archers have sorely grieved them. Now, specifically, the Puerto Ricans, the archers that got them was the Spanish conquistadors, which Christopher Columbus was a big part of that. So let's get some documents here on what's called the doctrine of discovery. Now, I hope this thing loads, man. Let's see if it loads. Come on. There you go. Okay. It says, the doctrine of discovery, a historical, legal, and religious concept, significantly impacted Puerto Rico by legitimizing the seizure of indigenous lands and resources during the Spanish colonization. The doctrine, based on papal bulls that asserted Christian monarchs' rights to claim lands inhabited by non-Christians, was used to justify the disposition of the Taíno people and the establishment of Spanish colonial rule. The legacy of this doctrine continues to affect Puerto Rico today. So basically, what is the doctrine of discovery? It's basically the Catholic Church writing laws that any land that wasn't Christian was basically for them. All right. And Puerto Rico was greatly impacted by that. It says the Taíno people, who were the original inhabitants of Puerto Rico, experienced significant displacement and loss of land due to the application of the doctrine of discovery. Spanish colonizers, citing the doctrine, claimed ownership of Taíno territory, leading to the forced relocation of communities, the establishment of plantations, and the imposition of Spanish law. Now, real quick, that's also how we prove that the so-called Puerto Ricans are Hebrew Israelites, because for you to be one thing that shows you that we are Hebrew Israelites is if we are under those curses, man. And that's Deuteronomy 20:49. I bring this up for pretty much all of the tribes. It says, Yahweh Shem Yahushua shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And that's exactly what happened to Ephraim, man. The Spanish came in, and they completely destroyed them. Now, I want to get another word here, because as the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Now, where's it at? Archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Shot at him and hated him. No, I guess I don't know what I was thinking. Sorely grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. Okay. Well, let's see if I got another article here. It says because it says that they hated him, right? It says cruelty faced by the Taíno people under the Spanish rule. It says the Spanish, driven by a desire for gold and conquest, engaged in bloody conflicts with the Taíno, attacking villages, killing large numbers of men, and enacting brutal crackdowns on any resistance. It says that the Spanish implemented systems like the encomienda, forcing Taíno men, women, and children into harsh labor in gold mines and on plantations. They were forced to produce tribute, often in the form of gold, and those unable to comply faced severe punishment, including torture and death. Woo, man, that's crazy. This, and going into this, because who are the Spaniards? The Spaniards are Edomites, man. And, that's how you know that it's the same people today. Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresses by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathers unto him all nations, and heaps unto him all people. They slaughtered the Taínos. Why? Because he wanted to enlarge his desire with gold. Now, while we're on this precept, I want us to put this part of this precept in the back of our head here. It says, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death. One of Esau Edom's name is death. Okay? Death, murder, hell. That's one of his names. Shalaki, give me a bit. This thing turned on. That's one of his names. Is death. Okay? Let's go back to the scriptures here. It says, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. So no matter what Esau tried to do against Ephraim, man, whether it was through the conquistadors, whatever it was, man, the Most High held his hands, man, and prophecy stood. Okay, so we got a couple articles on what they had to go through. We had a couple articles, yeah. So now let's get into some more scriptures. But before we go into the next one, let's get Hosea and 7. Hosea and 7, because why did this happen to Ephraim? It says, when I would have healed Israel, then the iniquity of Ephraim was discovered, and the wickedness of Samaria, for they commit falsehood, and the thief cometh in, and the troop of robbers spoileth without. And they consider not in their hearts that I remember all their wickedness. Now their own doings have beset them about. They are before my face. So this is why Ephraim got that judgment. And even to this day, Puerto Rico is, consistently getting hit by earthquakes, man. They just had a big one a couple years back, but it's because they went a-whoring, man. So, just like we got it in Psalm 17, save me from the wicked, which is thy sword. That's the judgment, man. That's the judgment that the Most High sent to Ephraim. All right, because to this day, these people are still, these so-called Puerto Ricans, man. They still believe in white Jesus, man. They still believe that the same people that slaughtered them is where the Most High comes from, man. Which those are idols, man. Okay, so let's get Hosea 9 and verse 13. Now that we know why these bad things came to happen, it says, Ephraim, as I saw, Tyrus is planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murder. So these are characteristics of Ephraim that we can now understand through the spirit of prophecy. All right. So when the scripture says it's planted in a pleasant place, well, that goes back to the land of Puerto Rico. Now, when it says here, it says, he shall bring forth his children to the murder, as we mentioned, as we just saw in Habakkuk 2 and 5, Esau Edom is death. He is that murderer. So what does it mean when the scripture says, he brings forth his children unto the murder? We got the articles on there. It says, because what did we read? In around the 1940s, Ephraim started to come over to Babylon, right? Supposedly, it was made cheap by the U.S., okay? But this is why. It was made cheap by the U.S. because after World War I had ended, after that World War ended, there was a lot of deaths. And what do we know about Esau? He's always planning things many years ahead, right? Like they got Agenda 2030, or right? And so when we read earlier in those articles, when it said that that the flights were made cheap by the U.S., why did they do that? Because they knew that they were going to go into the Vietnam War, so they needed to use people for cannon fodder. All right. So yes, Puerto Ricans served in Vietnam in significant numbers. Approximately 48,000 Puerto Ricans served in the U.S. Armed Forces during the Vietnam War, according to the Department of Defense. All right, it says many served in combat roles. So that's what the scriptures means when it says Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murder, man. Now, when did this happen here? Let's see. Puerto Ricans, because I think it was around the 1950s. It says from 1959. All right, so they came over between 1940s and 1950s to Babylon, and then Esau Edom threw them straight into war in in the 1950s, man. Ain't that crazy? That's crazy, man. Hosea 9, verse 14. Let's continue on. It says, give them, O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breast. So, that miscarrying womb and dry breast, goes into infertility because Ephraim, they are a very fruitful people, and even Esau Edom understood this. And so what did he try to do? Well, he tried to stop prophecy. So, and there's a big, let me see here. I have one more article here. What did I want to get on this part? Salakia. What did I want to get about? One of the consequences. Oh, yeah, right here. This was just to prove what I just said here. It says, so one of the consequences of the Spanish-American War was that Puerto Rico was annexed by the U.S. in accordance to the terms of the Treaty of Paris, ratified in 1898. Puerto Ricans became U.S. citizens as a result of the 1970 Jones-Shafroth Act. The timing, what a coincidence, the timing of the Jones Act was intentional. Why? It enabled the United States to forcibly conscript Puerto Ricans into the U.S. military and rapidly deploy them to the trenches of the European front, man. Ain't that crazy? They timed it perfectly, man, which, again, it goes further into that they gave their seed to the murderer, man. So now, going back into those, into the, a miscarrying womb and dry breast, that goes into what's called La Operación. Now, La Operación, it basically goes into, we'll get the specifics here. It says, the initial large-scale human trials for the birth control pill were conducted in Puerto Rico in 1956. The same time that we keep bringing up this, we keep seeing this time frame, 1940s, 1950s. While they were flying them out of Puerto Rico and sending them to war, they were still sterilizing them, man. Ain't that crazy? All this, I mean, man, again, how can the Puerto Ricans not be Hebrew Israelites, man? They're completely under the curses. But let's continue on. It says, the initial large-scale human trials for the birth control pill were conducted in Puerto Rico in 1956, involving over 200 women in a housing project near Rio Piedras. These trials were crucial for the pill's development, were ethically problematic due to a lack of informed consent and inadequate monitoring of side effects. Participants were not fully informed about the experimental nature of the drug and potential risks, and some experienced significant side effects which were largely dismissed by the research. By the way, does that sound familiar, like the C-19? But the point here is, man, is that miscarrying womb goes into Esau Edom conducting his birth control pills on the Ephraimites, man. And from there, we'll go over here. We'll go into the Wikipedia because there was a documentary called La Operación that goes into, it says La Operación is a 40-minute documentary film by Ana Maria Garcia about U.S. imposed sterilization policies in Puerto Rico. Produced by the Latin American Film Project and released in 1982, this film explores the mass sterilization of Puerto Ricans women during the 1950s and 1960s. In the documentary, Garcia sheds light on the decades-long practice by conducting interviews with women of different ethnic and economic backgrounds who have undergone the sterilization procedure. In addition to these interviews, Garcia provides historical information regarding the conditions that led to the sterilization practice. Now, I'm not going to read all of this here, but I mean, that's basically going into what Hosea 9 and 14 is going into, man. Give them, O Yahweh, what wilt thou? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breast, man. Just goes to show you, man, that even though our people may not understand who they are, Esau Edom understands who they are. It's not a by chance that Esau, Edom chose Ephraim. He is fruitful to try the first trials of birth control, man. Again, Esau knows who we are, man. Our people got to get it, man. Because if not, just as Ephraim had to go through it, just like all the tribes had to go through it. If our people don't get it on this side, man, judgment's coming again. You know, the Most High, he doesn't stop judging, man. So, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. There was one more point that I wanted to get. Let's see if this loads up. Just something else too. Which just a small characteristics, man. But even though the Puerto Ricans may not know who they are, even through the spirit, man, they still name their kids Ephraim. Check it out. It says so it's 99% male name. The country with the highest male ratio. Okay, so here's the age distribution. Okay, right. Here's right. It says the country with the largest proportion of people named Ephraim is Puerto Rico, with 0.1. With 13% of the population. Following is Bolivia and Peru. So I mean, there you have it, man. Even with them not knowing, man, they still call themselves Ephraim, man. And that's because, again, that's Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai showing us, man. So, the point has been made. These are so-called Puerto Ricans. That dude's going off. But, yeah, these are the so-called Puerto Ricans, man. The tribe of Ephraim, the head tribe of the Northern Kingdom. Another thing, too, man, which, call it a very small detail, man, but Ephraim, because, they are the head tribe, man. Even in their going off, one of the biggest gangs amongst the Puerto Ricans are the Latin Kings, which again, even though they're going off, man, but it just shows you that they are the head tribe, man. Just small things, but hey, hopefully until the next one, this has been edifying. Until then, I say shalom.